to the bridge. Why don't you guys turn to your right and to your left and welcome someone next to you.
When I see you the splendor of a king, clothed in majesty. Let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Well, age to age he stands, and time is in his hands. Beginning in the end, beginning in the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? No, we'll see how great is our God. Name above all names, you are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, you are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? No, we'll see how great is our God. Let me hear y'all out there. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? No, we'll see how great is our God.
Man, thank you, team. Let's pray together. God, we love you. You are a great God, and we do not tell you enough for sure. But we're here today, reminded of your greatness and setting some time aside to focus on who you are, who you would have us become, and what it is that you have in store for us. God, the stories you've written for all of us are incredibly different. At times we even want to trade in our story for someone else's that seems a lot easier or more fun or more beneficial or even more important. But God, all of us are woven into one story that really matters. That's the story of God, yours. So God, thank you for allowing us to have parts in it. Thank you for the chapters you've written, and this is the one we're in now. This is the time when we have an opportunity to change the world as you work through our lives. So God, continue to work and make our paths straight. Help us to be able to hear your voice more clearly than we hear anyone else's voice. Help us to see you at work so that we can follow you, so that we can walk towards you, so that we can, when we lose our way, find our way home. God, use us as we are. Thank you for Thank you for this moment, and I pray that it would be life-changing for many of us in this place. We love you, Lord. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you for being with us today. If you're worshiping with us online, welcome to the Bridge. We're glad you chose to spend a little time with us. If you're visiting, we're especially glad you chose to be here today. We hope that you will take a moment to let us know you're here. As was mentioned maybe a little bit earlier, and we'll mention it later, use those Connect cards on the back of the seats in front of you. Use that QR code to connect with us and let us know that you're here. We want to be able to connect with you the best way we can. We're in the story of God, hopefully every week, but we're still in it. And we looked last week at the life of a man named Jeremiah, how right after Isaiah, Jeremiah comes into the picture. And Jeremiah gives all of the class of 2021 something to hold on to when God spoke through Jeremiah, and he said, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." But as we looked at last week in the story of Jeremiah, the verse before then is the moment where Jeremiah tells everyone, after 70 years have completed, after you've lived in a place that's not your own, after you've been with people that you don't belong with, after you've lived in a culture that you don't understand and learned a language that you never knew, after you've spent your time away, after those 70 years are over, then you're going to return because I've got a plan. And the statement that we shared last week was, if God allows life to wreck me, then he will have plans to resurrect me. We know that. We lean in that. We trust in that. Well, Jeremiah spoke those words. And when he did, around that time and then following after that time, people were slowly taken from the Jerusalem area, the nation known as Judah, taken from Judah to a place called Babylon. They weren't necessarily taken as slaves, but they weren't given a choice. And they were forced to live in a place that was not theirs, that was a different kind of culture, a different kind of belief system. They did not worship the Creator. They did not worship the God of Jeremiah, the God of Isaiah, and on back to Abraham. They didn't worship our God. Different set of beliefs, different set of values, just a different kind of environment. And one of those thousands of people that was taken away and forced to live in this new place was a man named Daniel. And when Daniel was taken from Jerusalem to this place called Babylon, he was most likely around 19 or 20 years old. And 19 or 20 is that time when you have everything in front of you, and that's when life really begins. That's when life gets fun. You have an opportunity to have a little freedom and to have a little authority and to find a job and to make some money and to purchase that car or to purchase that first home even, or whatever it may be. We begin to spread our wings. In fact, for all of us, if we could go back and redo any season of our lives, I don't think there's any adult in this place that says, 10th grade chemistry is where it all began. Like that, it was the good stuff. Like none of us feel that way. None of us wants to go back and relive that. As fun as elementary school might have been, but none of us wants to go back to that time, really. If you've lived very long at all, if you're seasoned at all, you probably want to go back to that, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, around that time when you began to get a taste of freedom. You made mistakes. You learned from those mistakes, hopefully. You moved on. Those were the years. And Daniel, even though this is 2,500 years ago, Daniel is embarking on that season of life where finally he's moving out of the house, if you will. He's going off to college. He's 19. He's starting something fresh, starting something new. Everything's in front of him. But instead of getting a chance to live out the dream in this great setting, instead he's taken to Babylon and forced to live there. Now, Daniel, we're going to find out here, is a follower of God. He understands the prophecy. He knew who Jeremiah was, no doubt. And he knew that Jeremiah had said, after 70 years is over, then my people are going to be sent back, and you can rebuild, and you can begin again. Well, Daniel, he's 19, but he can do math, and he realizes you add 70 to where I am, and pretty much my entire life is going to be lived away from home. My entire life is going to be lived in this less than ideal setting around these people I don't want to be with. In fact, my country hates these people. We don't believe that they even understand truth. We know they're not worshiping our God. We don't want to be anything like them. And yet now this is going to be my existence. So Daniel is forced to live in this place he doesn't want to live, as an outsider, as an outcast, misplaced, displaced, in exile for the majority of his time on earth. So you'd think we don't even hear much about Daniel, right? Why is there an entire book here? I mean, you've got a guy with nothing in front of him, no hope for advancement, no freedom, Why does he have a book named after him, and why are we certainly going to talk about him today? Well, in Daniel chapter 6, verse 28, Daniel is already mature, he's advanced in years. And in chapter 6, verse 28, it says, Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Not an incredibly powerful verse. None of you are thinking, oh, I want to memorize that one, or that'll be my new tattoo. This is the verse. That's nothing really to it, right? But it says Daniel prospered at a time when his kings weren't on the throne, and the time he's not governed by his people. There's no man of God on the throne leading his people. You have these foreign kings, these foreign authorities, these foreign officials leading the people, not to Daniel's God, but leading them, if anywhere, away from Daniel's God. And it says Daniel prospered. In other words, Daniel found personal success in a time of collective disappointment. His people are looking around saying, listen, physically, geographically, we're disappointed. We're disappointed in where we are. Culturally, we don't even recognize this place. We don't understand what's going on. Politically, we are beyond disappointed. This is a nightmare for us. Like everything was falling apart. Nothing was working according to their plans and wishes. And yet somehow Daniel's able to prosper. And I think this is an incredibly important message for us, because even though the circumstances are different, we're certainly not exiled to a country we don't understand. But we're at a place now where regardless of where you are relationally, politically, financially, there's probably some disappointment that we're all experiencing. We really wish things were a little different. And we all turn on the news, we all look at our phones, we all read the headlines, and we just shake our heads. Like, what is this place? We don't recognize our country anymore. We don't recognize direction. We get frustrated. We're all looking for signs of the end of the world, and we're trying to talk about it. Who knows? But we're all a little discontented. And it's easy just to sit back and snarl and say, man, this place, I don't get it. I don't like it here. I'm ready for God to do something different. I'm ready for God to move. I'm going to hold on to Jeremiah 29:11. God's got plans. He wants to prosper us. Things should be different. It's easy to sit back and just wait on God to do that. But Daniel didn't wait. Daniel actually prospered. Daniel, while everything around him was changing, chose to actually change his part of the world. And as you and I watch our world change, we have an opportunity to allow God to use us to actually become the world changers instead of just sitting back and being changed by what we see around us. But I think there are some principles here we have to lean on. I think there are 4 core principles for anyone who's ready for God to use him or use her to change our part of the world. I think there are 4 things that Daniel certainly believed in, 4 principles that he held on to. So I want us to quickly run through these today. Number 1, Daniel understood and he believed by faith that no circumstance has the key to my success. No circumstance, no force, no position, no authority figure, no difficulty, no person, no particular leader. No one is actually going to be able to dictate success for me. Now, ultimately, those of us who are followers of God realize that it's all in God's hands. And I don't mean at any point today to take that away, to say it's up to us, or if we just pull ourselves up with our own strength. I'm not meaning that at all. God's in control. But I certainly am not going to sit here on the stage today, cross my legs, and say, well, God, you move. It's all about you. I want you to do great things around me. Because God whispers, get up then, because I want to work through you. Get up. I want to do something. I have a plan. Yes, I'm in control, but I work through people. And Daniel realized God was at work, and there was not going to be a circumstance, there was not going to be an issue, there was not going to be a particular person that was going to dictate whether or not he was going to be successful, whether or not he was going to flourish at this time. And many of us have allowed ourselves, out of fear, to get to the point where we take the keys to our success and the keys to our future, and we hand them over to people that do not deserve to have that kind of power in our lives. We look at people and we say, well, if you'll approve of me, then I know I can make something of myself. Or if my boss will eventually recognize the work I put in or recognize my potential and give me that raise, then I'll be able to do something here. Or if she would just appreciate me, or if he would just tell me a little bit more that he loves me, or if I would just hear those words, I'm sorry, or if I could just get out of this town, if I could just get a new car, if I could just have a new house, if I could just get a new job, if I could just finish school. We have all of these factors in our lives. And it's tempting just to hand each one of these factors or these people the keys to our success and give them more potential, more power than they absolutely deserve in our lives. No one else gets to dictate that for you. And there have been seasons in my own life where I've allowed circumstances to keep me from moving forward. And then you have a wake-up moment of thinking, why am I waiting? What am I doing this for? I don't rely on you. I'm allowing God in me, the hope of glory, to make the change, to be the change, to allow me to change and affect the people around me. I don't need to wait. And Daniel realized that no circumstance has the key to his success. He wasn't in an ideal spot. He wasn't around the ideal group of people. He wasn't able to do the things that he wanted to do. He didn't even have all of his freedom. Didn't matter. He was going to succeed. He was going to excel. He was going to experience joy, and he was going to experience some level of achievement, even in a place that he didn't belong. So the situation was less than ideal, but he held on. But practically, what does that mean? It's easy to sit back and just say, no one's going to determine my success, but what do I do? Well, let's go backwards in the story. Usually in the story, even the story of God, we go forward, we're chronological, but let's go backwards a little bit. A few verses before we read that Daniel had experienced success, it says in verse 25, King Darius wrote to all the nations and peoples of every language in all the earth, may you prosper greatly. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. Almost sounds like a prayer, like a song that we would sing. He rules, he reigns, his dominion will never end. And this is this pagan king saying, I'm making a change. I'm leading this country that absorbed all of these people and took all these people away ultimately, and now is governing all these people that are different from us, that are living in our place, that have been here for years and years and years. I'm now making a change. We're going to worship their God. We're going to listen to their way of life. We're going to adopt core values that are important to them. So what made the change? Daniel made the change. And he said, I'm now saying that we as an entire nation are going to follow that man's lead. This man who prospered in this place that he didn't belong. And this is hard for us to grasp, but really important, I think. Daniel was successful in large part because he refused to be anybody but himself. Daniel changed an entire world by being himself. By being willing to say, God is doing a work in my life, and I'm just not going to hide it. I don't care what everyone else says. I don't care what everyone else does. I know what God is doing in me is real, and I am who I am. I am the person that God is creating me to be. I am the person that God is working in. I am the person that God is moving in. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm certainly not where I was. All those little lines and phrases that we have. Daniel knew that. He held on to that. He said, I'm not going to change. And as a result, God used that to give him victory. So the second principle, the second core belief here, for those of us who want God to use us and allow us to be world changers, is that every time I blend in, I forfeit a win. Every time I look around and realize that the way I'm viewing life and what God is doing in me is different than the people around me, and I choose to shrink back, and I hide, and I just blend in with everyone else. Every time I do that, I'm forfeiting an opportunity to change the world. I'm forfeiting a win. I'm literally just taking a loss, saying, I can't do this. Disqualified, DQ, forfeit, I'm out. I can't do this. Every time we blend in, Daniel changed the world by being himself. He didn't allow himself to get swallowed up in the sea of sameness. He was willing to be different. He was willing to be unique. And we pride ourselves on being different and being such a unique place. And the truth is, none of us is unique or different. We just choose someone who's different than the people on the other side of us, and we choose to go act like them. We're all chasing sameness. None of us is willing at most of the time to be unique in this way. And it's a challenge, but every time we blend in and we say, yeah, I don't want to mess up anything here. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to stir up the waters. I'll just be quiet. I'm not going to compromise my convictions, but I'm just going to do it really, really quietly. Daniel could have. But then no one notices the change, and ultimately an entire nation is not changed. Now, Daniel was around 19 when he was brought in. He wasn't 19 anymore at this point. But maybe it's that. Maybe it's all these graduations that are happening. Maybe it's because it's the ages of my kids now. I don't know. But I've been reliving some of those memories of 18, 19, 20, 21 over the last, few months. And the beach is my happy place, and it always has been. And I went on my own for the first time when I was 18. Started going with a group of guys at college, and we would go and have spring break there. Now, this is the chance where y'all get to elbow and go, all right, now I know, like, he's one of us. Just stop for a moment. But I was with my guys every spring break, and we would we'd take our trip to the beach, Panama City, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, all throughout Clarksville South, as we call it now. I was there as well as a teenager, probably just down the road from some of you, or maybe in the same hotel, condo thing, whatever. But when I went, I'll be honest, I had some strong convictions even as a teenager. And as a freshman in college, sophomore in college, I had no plans of sending my life on a path I couldn't recover from. So I got together with some of my other friends, and it wasn't just me taking the initiative. I had some great, great friends around me. We had some guys who were really, really interested in what God was doing in their lives and where God would take them. We had some guys who really, really were not. But we were all friends, and we loved each other. We cared about each other. Many of us were in the same fraternity together. So we would go down together on spring break, and we spent as much time as we possibly could together. And then there was usually that hour around 12 or 1 in the morning where things started to get off the rails, and we just have to look at our friends like, I think this is where we bow out. So there was a small group of us, loved those guys, we're there for those guys. If they call us and said we're in trouble, we would be there. But we knew, like, that time of night where, like, we need to step away, otherwise nothing but regrets are about to happen. So we would slip away, and we did this. This was kind of our pattern. Well, one night while we were there, we'd stepped away. We'd gone into our little hotel room, and we were all sitting around playing cards, watching TV or whatever it was. It was 1 or 2 in the morning. We had an idea what the rest of our friends were doing. Like, we're just going to stay in here, stay back. And some people that were staying a few rooms down stumbled into our room thinking it was their room. So they start walking through our little hotel condo thing, looking for their beds, and we're just sitting here in the middle of the room going, hey, who are you? What are you doing? And they didn't know what was going on. They had trouble reading the room numbers and all that. Like, here we are. And so we began to talk a little bit. Conversation was not that deep with these new stranger friends of ours, but we talked a little bit, helped them get back to their room. Same kind of thing happened the next few nights. Not necessarily people falling into your room, but same vibe, same atmosphere. And about a couple nights into it, I don't remember exactly which night, the people from that first night of stumbling in came back in. And it was only 12:30, so they weren't quite over the edge yet. And they all sat around, and one girl in particular spoke up, and she said, what's your deal? Like, we all party, and then we don't see y'all anymore. What's going on? And that's that moment. And we all have it in different times and different places and different atmospheres. And we're all, a bunch of 19-year-old kids looking around. And you've got someone that just basically called our faith out, just saying, why are you here? Like, why aren't you doing it? So I was ready to double over and go, well, I would love to party, but I've got this condition, And I had some guy over there wanting to go, well, I want to, but my mom's, we're just coming up with all these excuses in our heads. You could just see our wheels turning. And time was going so slowly. Like, it was probably a 5-second delay. It felt like an hour and a half. Just going, what do we say? What do we say? We don't want to feel like, we're stupid or look dumb here. And then one of my friends spoke up. One of my closest buddies, one of my roommates we roomed together back in college, and he was with us on the trip. And I don't know what came over him. He just spoke up and said, well, the deal is, like, we follow Jesus. We're Christians. And, we just don't want to make any regrets here on this trip. I'm telling you, I have the nausea. I still feel it. We all looked at him like, what? You just ruined our social, like, it's over. Like, we had 40 friends that won't ever remember us, but they're close friends of ours for 5 days. Like, this was the time. And then she all looked, she said, is that true? We just all thought, yeah, that's our reason. And, we talked a little bit, and she went on out with her friends, and we all looked at my buddy, and I was like, what was that? Like, what made you think now's preaching time? Like, now is the spot? Like, what made you think, like, this was the moment to say that? And he's like, dude, it's true. And we all, yeah, it is true. It's true. So the next couple of nights, we continued doing our thing. We were getting ready to leave on the last night, and I had a knock at the door about 2 or 3 in the morning. And I went to the door. I don't know why it was me, but I went to the hotel condo door thing. I opened up, And it was one of the people that had been stumbling into our room all week. And she said, hey, do you have a minute? And I was like, well, it's 3. We're leaving in a few hours to drive back. She's like, I know, that's why I'm here. I was like, what's up? And she said, well, here's the thing. If y'all are for real with this, and that's why y'all are different, I want you to tell me how to know Jesus and how I can do this too. Now, those are the stories that preachers usually tell you, and they're lying on Sunday morning. Like this will happen to you if you stick out. People will walk up to you and want to have what you have, and I'm like you sitting out there going, never happen, never happen, never. I do it. I know. I felt the same way. But in that one moment, that one day, it actually happened. And she said, can you help me know Jesus like y'all do? And I remember her saying, like y'all do. I said, yeah, can you give me a minute? And I went back, and I reached into my bag. I don't know that I'd pulled it out all week, but I had a Bible in the bottom. I grabbed my little student Bible, for those of you who lived in the 90s, a little paperback student Bible that was really cheaply made, but cost $4,000 probably, and you'd get it as a graduate gift. And we went out to the swimming pool, pushing bottles around. I remember waiting in that pool next to all these bottles, and just remember the tears splashing down around me as I heard her say, Jesus, if you'll take me as I am, I want to be yours. So I got back up, and I gave her my Bible. It said, to Chad from Nana. But anyway, I gave her my Bible. I was like, you're going to need this. Like, you really are going to need this. And this was late 90s, so it was before cell phones and stuff. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see you again, but here you go. And we left. I told my friends, of course, on the way back, and grateful for the deal. And what's cool is about 15 years later, Facebook is a thing, and I reconnect with this person. And a few years later, which just a year or so ago, she ends up sending me a picture of my Bible. She said, do you remember this? This is the one I still bring out every now and then. Now, I look at that, and her kids who have said yes to Jesus and all that stuff, and we've all connected, and it's a cool story. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with my friend being willing to say, we're different, and I'm willing to tell you why. Like, we're doing things a little differently, and I'm willing to say why. We're not going to just hide in the sea of everybody being the same. I'm willing to tell you that this is our reason. He is our reason. He is our difference. And because of that, lives can change. Worlds can change. Do not underestimate the power of you being willing to be who you are, no matter what anybody does. If God is doing something in you, the only wrong thing is to not let anybody see it. The only wrong thing is to say, I'm going to step back and just hope people think I'm maturing. I'm getting more moral in my older age. I'm growing up. I don't party. If that's your reason, that reason is going to come and go. If the reason is Jesus, let it be known. Because that's where change begins to happen. And Daniel was willing to stand up and say, I'm not just different. I'm different because my God is different than your God. And I'm not turning my back on him. Say, well, how did he see all that difference in Daniel's life? Well, let's go back a little bit earlier. Verse 22, Daniel found himself arrested and thrown into a dungeon with a hungry lion because he refused to be the same as everyone else. And after the situation's over, he's brought out, and everyone's in shock that he's safe. Here's what Daniel says. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, and here it is, because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty. He's talking to the king. He says, I haven't wronged you. I've been honorable to you. And even more than that, my God protected me because I've been faithful to him. My faithfulness was my protection in this moment. The third value, this third belief is that faithfulness protects me from failure. Now, it doesn't mean you'll be perfect. It doesn't mean you won't fall every now and then. But your faithfulness acts as a protection for you. Daniel said, I would have died right there. But God rewarded my faithfulness. He protected me, not because I've been perfect, but because my heart is perfectly his. And every single time you choose faithfulness in your relationship with God, you are protecting yourself. And you know as well as I know that there are people around you that are affected by all your decisions. So let's just take it out a step further. If you live with people in a home, if you have a family that you provide for, especially, every act of unfaithfulness is exposing your family to a little danger. Every single time you and I say, I know, God, what you would have me do, but I'm going to do something different. You are exposing the people that care about you. You're exposing people around you to a little danger. And you and I can take it a step further. We are a church family, and we have a responsibility to each other. And every act of unfaithfulness on my part, no matter what it is, if God says, this is what I want you to do, Chad, and I say, no, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm actually exposing you, people that I love dearly, to harm. It doesn't mean things are going to fall apart with every single sin we commit, but we are chancing things, and we are exposing each other to the possibilities of harm by the way we live our lives. And the flip side of that, of course, is every act of faithfulness shores us up a little bit more, makes us a little bit stronger. So that third principle is that faithfulness protects me from failure. So the question I have to continually ask myself is, who or what am I exposing to danger with my lack of faithfulness? I'm reminded in the New Testament, a man named Peter wrote, and he said, your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. In other words, we have our own lions that are trying to take life and joy and happiness and contentment away from us. And when you and I act unfaithfully to God, we're exposing each other to that. But when we have moments of faithfulness, when we demonstrate faithfulness to God, we're protecting each other. We'll take that one step further, one more time. We're going to go back just a little bit more in the story, because the secret to Daniel's success was not a grand gesture of faithfulness, where Daniel said, God, watch this. Check this out. Watch me work here in this moment. Look what I can do. It wasn't that at all. It was something very, very simple. And here's an incredible illustration of it in verse 10. When Daniel learned that the decree had been published, a decree that no one could worship any god except the king himself and bow before the king, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God, giving thanks to his God. And here's the part I would underline in my mind here. Just as he had done before, just as he always had. Daniel didn't wait until his faith was tested on stage to say, I better get this thing right. God, I need you now. Because everybody gets religious in the lion's dungeon. Everybody's ready to say, Lord, help me. Dominion and power forever and ever, and every other prayer I've ever prayed, and every worship song I've sung. God, I mean it now. Daniel did not wait to get on the stage before these things mattered to him. It said 3 times a day, he got down on his face and said, God, here I am again. Not because I know anything about a lion coming, not because I know anything about what's going to happen to me down the road, but just because it's time to pray. Just because it's time to do the right thing. And Daniel just stacked up natural moments, one after the other, until before he realized that he had a supernatural faith working out in his life. Just by doing the little things and doing them well. The last principle that I'll share is that my strength for the stage is decided in the shadows. My strength that ultimately will be on display when my faith is tested, all of that stuff, it's not developed here. It's developed in those dark places where you just do the right thing because you know God asked you to do it. Where you're faithful and you honor him just because God asked you to do it. Not because anybody's watching, not because you're afraid you're not going to pass a test, not because all of a sudden you better get your stuff ready. It's Sunday morning, I got to act. Just because it's the right thing to do. And your success tomorrow, any prosperity you're going to experience, and I hope you know me well enough to know I don't mean just financial prosperity. Any successful experience you're going to have down the road is actually being determined today. If you're young and single and you're about to graduate high school and you got plans on a family one day, do not wait until you fall in love and say, I do, to decide, what do I have to do to have a successful home where we honor God and love each other? You better not wait until then. God miraculously shows us mercy and gets us through some moments, but right now is the time to prepare. If you've got dreams of God doing big things through you, you don't wait until God calls your number and says, come on up. And then you think, well, I hope I'm ready. What do I need to do now? What are the steps? The steps are gone. The steps were when things were relaxed, when things were easy, before the decrees are out there, before they outlaw this and outlaw that, before you're not able to speak this and speak that, before all the testing happens, before people stick a finger in your face and say, why are you so different? Before all of those things, you make the decision to do the right thing. And Daniel stacked little win on top of little win on top of little win, and he was prepared. Your strength for this stage is going to be decided in the shadows. And your life tomorrow, the next part of your story, is being written right now by how you're preparing or not preparing yourself. It's the little things. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for loving us. Thank you for caring for us. Thank you for being faithful. Thank you for showing us so much mercy when we're not ready. God, the truth is most of us are not preparing our hearts and lives for the stage, for that moment of testing. We're sitting back, relaxed, and doing our own thing, knowing that if we ever find ourselves in a difficult situation, that we can call on you and you will rescue just as you always do. And maybe you will. But God, I know that we have a responsibility to prepare ourselves. And if we want to change our little corners of the world, God, we have the responsibility to prepare our hearts now, to take advantage of these times of peace, to take advantage of these seasons of life where we're not under fire, when we're not being shoved and pushed and prodded and pulled and taken to a place we don't want to be. God, we need to take advantage of this time to figure out what it is we believe, who it is we believe in, and stake our claim. God, help us to stack up small wins so that we can be prepared for the test. God, your invitation is every day. It's not just in a moment like this. But I do know these are the times when you have our attention, that you look around and you begin to search hearts to find who it is that's ready to follow you. And God, your word says that you literally, your spirit hovers and seeks throughout the entire land, looking for peoples whose hearts are solely focused on you. And usually those are the ones you use to change the world. And every single one of us has that opportunity to say, yes, you can use me. Yes, I'll be ready. Yes, you can call on me and you can count on me, but until you call me, I'm going to prepare in the shadows. God, thank you for loving us the way you do. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for forgiveness. And thank you for your power that's available to each of us. We ask all these in the name of our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh, yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will. Why don't you guys stand up and worship with us? I found one thing. The same God who never fails will not fail me now.
If you will, have a seat for just a moment. I want to tell you a few things, and then we get to celebrate a couple of baptisms. But first, I just want to tell you about Vacation Bible School. I told you last week what the dates were and asked you to volunteer, and you guys showed up great. And so we are going to be able to carry it off. So this QR code behind me, you can just hold your phone up now, and that will take you to the registration page where you can register your kindergarten through fifth graders. We are going to have a fantastic week. If you don't want to do it now, there's also cards out at the kids check-in table and then just right out here at the Welcome Center. But we have a great week planned. It's 80s, 90s theme, and so you're about to see a lot of neon and some boom boxes and some Rubik cubes. So I guarantee we are going to have as much fun as the kids. And so if you haven't signed up to help yet, we still have places for you, so just come see me after. But right now, we get to celebrate a couple of young ladies as they have decided to take this next step into baptism. And so Cameron is our first one, and Cameron is another one. I feel like the last probably 5 or 6 months, we've baptized one person in this family, and it's extended to grandmothers and aunts and nieces and nephews and kids and moms and dads. And this is Deborah Holman's family, who a lot of you guys know. And who you're going to see today is Cameron. And she has had a rough year, including losing her grandmother. And through all that, not really despite all that, but probably because of all that, she's really grown closer to God. She said she started turning to him more and praying to him more. And so today she is just ready to take this next step and tell the world that she's placing her faith in him. After you see her baptized, you'll also see Ansley Holman. And she actually, her family has moved away, but they still join us in worship every week online. And so when she was ready to go public with her faith, she wanted to come back to what felt like home and be baptized here. So let's look and watch as these girls get baptized. It is a big day for these girls, so as you see them out here in the lobby, wet and soaking, just give them a hug, give them a high five. But we are glad that they get to be a part of our family now. And if you're ready for that next step, then just let us know. These cards are in your seat backs in front of you. If you're visiting with us today, if you have a prayer request, if you're ready to be baptized, you can just fill that out and drop it in the offering bucket. So as the ushers come forward to receive our tithes and offerings, I also want to tell you about other ways to give. In addition to volunteering for Vacation Bible School, we have some supplies that are needed. And so I know some of you are going to be traveling that week or won't be able to help with VBS, but you still can. Right outside in the lobby, there's 2 chalkboards on the wall, and they have colorful stickers on them. And I will tell you, the first service really went wild on it, so there's not a lot of things left. But on those stickers, it'll say something like rubber bands or glue or cotton balls, and you can just grab one of those cards, buy what's on it, and then bring it back in the next 2 Sundays. If you'd rather do online shopping like me, there's a QR code out there that goes straight to an Amazon wish list. And so if you just put your phone up on that, it'll take you to the Amazon wish list. You can just hit click, buy, and it'll send it right to us. But either of those ways that you want to help, we would love to have you involved. Make sure you register your kids because it's going to be a great week this summer. But let's stand and sing one more song together.